They took off one way towards the house, and then they looked back, and the creature had crossed the road and dropped down into the creek drainage on the other side.
Lección 183. Pata o pie. Tercera parte.
Oh, they're latchkey kids. Their mother and father weren't there. They were both working.
Los papás no estaban. No estaban en casa. Estaban trabajando. They were working. Estaban. They were. Trabajando. Working. The ando is the ing oftentimes. He was taking care of. Estaba cuidando. Los papás estaban trabajando. El muchacho estaba cuidando a su hermanita. And Dennis está hablando right now, and we are listening. Estamos escuchando. Estaba cuidando a su hermanita.
His sister, and we didn't have 911 then, so he called the sheriff's department directly. Then, when I got out there, I interviewed the kids. That's the story I got. Talked to Hutch, the Verl Hutchinson. And he told me basically the same thing. That's what the kids told him. I went back and looked at the scene where the animal had originally been seen, and it was up underneath a tree.
Rama.
It was under the tree.
Una rama grande.
Underneath the tree, where evidently he had picked it up, shook it at the kids, and then dropped it right where he had it. And then I looked up in the tree, and I saw about
miré arriba.
15 feet up, or maybe higher, where the limb had been broken off. So, it appeared that like maybe something had been up in the tree. I'm not sure.
Estaba en el árbol.
So I just, and I saw these big disturbances on the ground, which appeared to be like
huellas,
footprints, but you couldn't really see in that area because it was gravel, it was brush. And when it crossed the gravel road, you saw the scuffs where it ran across the road, a lot of distance in between. And then when I got to the other side, that's where you got into some better material. You got into some bare earth, an old game trail.
Senda de animales.
Had to cross a barbed wire fence. I pulled some hair off the fence.
Un poquito, a little bit. Un poquito del pelo de la criatura estaba en la fence.
It dropped down into the creek bed there.
What dropped down?
The tracks went down into the creek bed.
Huellas.
I followed the tracks down into the creek. It's a fairly sharp incline to the creek.
Arroyo.
There's an old buckskin dead log.
Un tronco en el arroyo.
It looked like people used it for the years to cross the creek. That had been buckled in the middle very recently. I'd say whatever made those tracks buckled the log. And there's debris in that laying around that log. Now I couldn't, at that point in time, my dog is normally very well trained, it wasn't afraid of anything.
Craig fue un muy buen perro. Perro, pero. Craig was a really good perro, but he was scared. Perro, pero. Say it with me. Perro, pero. Perro, pero. This butt, pero, is not a dog's butt. That would be B-U-T-T, of course. Perro has the double ere, or R. People say that letter differently, you remember, depending on where they are from. And pero has the single ere, or R. So this is one of the funny sounding things to the English ear, if you want it to be, but it's not funny at all in Spanish. Craig fue un muy buen perro, but
at that point in time, the dog was not coming with me. It was backing up. It was growling. It even growled at me.
No quiero.
And it was getting dark on us. I looked back at the fellow that was with me, Lane Yeomans, and he was, like I say, he was the deputy too, also off duty. And we both had our weapons out. We had no idea what we had in front of us. And I just told Lane, I said, look, I'm not going to go any further with the Craig acting the way he was acting.
Your dog?
Yeah, that's telling me that there's something up. He just was very uncomfortable doing it. So then I took Craig back and put him
Dennis
back up into the
puso
truck.
a Craig
or the
en el Bronco.
And we called it a day.
Ya.
And the kids, their dogs were up under the porch and would not come out from under the porch. But this is after the fact too. On that night we got another call. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't believe in Sasquatch and Bigfoot. I was raised in the woods, never seen one, never seen anything that had any semblance of being anything like that.
But you'd seen a lot of animals.
I've seen a lot of animals. I've seen a lot of strange stuff.
Cosas raras.
I've seen mountain lions. I've seen
bears and
bear. I was chased by a bear, but yeah, yeah.
I mean, you grew up around the stuff, and then as an investigator, you and your partner tracked lots of animals.
Right.
Or you were out there in the woods when the animals were around.
We're out there. We know what is an animal track and what is not an animal track. Correct.
Los dos detectives saben. ¿Fue una huella de animal?
This was an animal track?
This could have been both. Yeah, it was you had the high breakage of it's the aerial brush and shrubs where the limbs had been disturbed. They had the shine on them from something passing through them, bending and breaking. The leaves had been flipped over or knocked off, broken branches.
Well, when you say both, you mean it could have been
Un ser humano.
and it could have been an
Un animal.
Yes, and a huge gate, big, large steps.
Pasos grandes.
The more distance the animal wanted to cover, the greater the distance between, the greater the distance between the steps if it was moving fast.
like how?
The Abbott Hill tracks where I got some good tracks out there too. That was up to 11 feet.
Pasos grandes. 11 pies. 11 feet. Almost 11 feet from toe to toe. Dos pies. This is how many feet the creature has. Or does it have dos patas? Pata o pie?
The stride, you had a downhill slope too.
From one footstep to the other.
Correct.
Up to 11 feet.
Yeah, there's a report on file for that.
Here's some important evidence so far. Primero, la historia. Los muchachos told two different policemen lo mismo. When a story stays the same, that's important. They told la misma historia. Segundo, la rama grande. La rama fue muy grande para una persona. It's not normal for a person to be able to break and hold such a large rama. Tercero, el pelo en la fence, la cerca. One single hair, un pelito, can have a lot of information, as you'll see later. Cuarto, los pasos de la criatura fueron muy grandes. A human, un ser humano, does not take such large steps going up and down slopes. Such pasos tan grandes would cause los pies to slide at least a little going downslope, which would show up right away in the footprints. And taking such pasos grandes uphill and for long distances seems impossible for un ser humano. It takes practically superhuman strength to do that, and it cannot be done by running in fake feet. Quinto, los perros knew something that the people did not. Los perros were so disturbed that some of them stayed under the porch. And Craig, the meanest dog in the whole wide world of tracking, did not want to go. He didn't want Dennis to go either. Los animales often know things that we seres humanos do not. So far, Dennis had enough información to believe that he was not wasting his time.
Every one of these I wrote a report on. The hairs that I recovered at Heisey Road, I put in an envelope and submitted to the sheriff. Submitted to the detective, put in the evidence locker. It went into the evidence locker. I've never heard of him. Never heard about him since. We had a changeover of the administration a year later. I don't know what happened to the hairs. So.
You're telling me some people don't even want to mess with the story?
Correct.
Why? Am I interrupting?
No. I think it has a lot to do with oh, the stigma attached to it. You know, the fear that they're gonna be labeled as a I don't know, a hoaxer or something along that line. Or
Like my brother and I several years ago up, not here, but closer to his home, in territory similar to this, we saw a black panther. Do you think we're crazy?
no, I could see mountain lions are mountain lions. Now they're normally tan. If it's black, I would think it might have been a black bear. But you know, your brother, I know him, so he he would probably know a panther from a bear.
Right, it had a long tail.
Oh, really?
We were close to it.
No fue oso.
Were you?
Oh yeah, it wasn't a bear.
All right.
Qué padre.
It was a wildcat.
See, and that's like anything else. They have their pigments in the hairs, and you know, it's we call these black bears around here black bears, but most of them are cinnamon and red colored, reddish colored at certain times of the year.
You were on this story. Mm-hmm. You went down and got some evidence. You didn't think you were going to hear anything else about it.
Oh, I kind of felt there was going to be more out there about it. I went down and got the evidence of the critter crossing the road and all that stuff, and the tracks to the point where my dog would not go any further. Went back up. We made sure the kids were they were safe. Their parents were home by then. And the dogs were under the porch. They would not come out from under that porch for nothing. I want to say it was the next night, not that night. Anyways, I got called back out to the house, and it was in the evening hours. I got called out to the house, and what had happened was that the kid had heard a noise in the back porch, went back to look, and there was the big creature that he saw earlier staring at him.
Estaba mirándolo. It was looking, watching, staring at him. Estaba mirándolo.
From in the yard somewhere. The dogs were going nuts. We went out and looked, and sure enough, when I went back out and looked in the yard, there was the depressions in the grass and the dirt where the critter had walked, to whatever it was, had walked in through the backyard. I got the impression that it was a part of that critter's habitat. You know, that creek drainage there. Just down the road a ways there was the local dump that at that time was pretty open aired and exposed. Nowadays they're in containers, but back then it was just a pit in the ground, and you drove up and dropped your trash into the dump. And the tops of those piles, that dump was frequented by bear,
Osos, perros,
dogs,
coyotes.
coyotes, and just about anything that was omnivorous that would probably get down there and eat. I think that was its territory. I just think, yeah, that was part of its routine, and finally, you know, got discovered that one day. Subsequent to that, though, the road got paved within the next year. Traffic increased on that road. More houses were built. 2 or 3 more houses were built on that road.
Más carros y más casas en el camino.
There was nothing. Clear cuts were happening in the background.
Los árboles were cleared.
So I think it got pushed out, if anything.
Until you experience what you believe is an animal attack, in our case, a bear attack,
Habla Jaime.
it's hard to put yourself in somebody else's shoes to realize the fear that's involved in believing that you're just about to get mauled and possibly killed by a wild beast.